Alright, what up y'all, it's your boy T, and welcome back to me. Now look, in the last video, I'm so freaking stupid. I was moving boxes, I came in like freaking half dressed, my audio was ass. Hopefully my editor made it work, but now the sun is still killing me. But I've re-gauged myself. Let's freaking watch more of this video. Okay, let's get this face out of the way. I'm recording on this. Hopefully this doesn't overheat, but you know what?
Pitch document outlines something even more important. It straight up says that this project is meant to pave the way for the next generation of Pokemon. It confirms that Game Freak wasn't just experimenting for the sake of doing something new.
For the sake of doing something new, bro? For the sake of doing something new, you do a little post-game battle frontier, like little thing. You program something little. You don't freaking make a whole game, bro.
Actively trying to lay the technical groundwork for the next generation and the series' future, especially when it comes to open world gameplay. I think it's interesting looking at it from Game Freak's perspective, specifically from a technology development.
Wait, what? Game Freak's perspective.
Standpoint. They knew Pokemon was heading towards the open world direction, but they also knew that they couldn't suddenly pull.
No, Pokemon was not heading towards the open world direction. Pokemon was not heading towards the open world direction. You decided to take them there. I don't know what, I'm recording a bunch of videos. I don't know what video I talked about this in, but it was the last one, wasn't it? No one asked for you to develop it this much. It's so crazy, you know, but the only thing I can think is that this is not the case in Japan. And the reason Game Freak moves in such a weird direction when we look at it is because Japan, they're actually keeping perfectly up to date with Japan. If this is the case, full credit to them. I can't know until I go to Japan and live there for freaking a few years. But maybe they're listening to how the Japanese audience feels about the Pokemon games. Maybe they see the Japanese audience wanted them to develop more, go to 3D, go open world. And for us, we're like, bro, just stick to sprites, you know, stick to this and that. But they're actually nailing it in terms of their, you know, their market that's right beside them. I don't think that's the freaking case, bro. Like, how could Japan be that different to us? Dang, it could be though. Japan, like, futuristic. They got the toilets and the floors. Nah, bro. You can't tell me. You cannot, bro. No.
Off a full-scale open-world game in just 2 to 3 years. So instead, they started laying the technological groundwork all the way back in Sword and Shield with the wild area. Then,
you know, it's like Game Freak, you know, they're in their own lane, right? Why the freak did you bite Zelda? Leave him alone. Do your own freaking thing. It's like they fully bit Zelda. From the cover art of Breath of the Wild and Legends EA, it's so much a bite. It's almost like Android biting Apple or the other way around. It's almost like they straight up just copied it. It's like, yo, I love that so much. I don't know if it's stayed in an interview anywhere, because if it is, then it kind of makes it okay. I'm not saying they never needed to go to this. They can go to it when they're ready, right? They're clearly learning so much as if it's their first time working with 3D and all this for the past 15 years and all, right?
They started laying the technological groundwork all the way back in Sword and Shield with the wild area. Then, instead of focusing their efforts towards creating a traditional remake of...
I never beat BDSP! What the hell? This is the credits?
Diamond and Pearl, they focused their energy on Legends Arceus, a project that would push the technology even further and bring them closer to the open world game they were eventually going to create.
I believe it.
Then, finally, with Scarlet and Violet, all those pieces came together, and it culminated in their first true open-world Pokemon.
Scarlet and Violet's another passion project. The only oddity is, you know, not being able to go into buildings, the routes sometimes being bland. You know, compared to the Sword and Shield routes, even if they're small, there's at least a little path, right? It's like Sword and the ultimate Scarlet and Violet game we got. It almost feels like a beta build in terms of the vacant overworld. It's almost like they're supposed to develop the in-between areas much more. Fill them with trees, fill them with passageways, fill them with little towns, right? Who said there's only 12 towns in the entire equivalent of Spain, right? There should be like 100 little towns. Even if it's just 2 houses, like Pallet Town size. 2 houses and a Pokemon Center, or a village lady that heals you, right? It's crazy, bro. I mean, I'd say the Shadows thing a lot, but if I go from one end of Shadows and walk to the other end of the map, bro, that taking me like an hour. Pokemon, you can walk from one end to the map pretty quick.
While it wasn't perfect, and there's still many improvements to make, it was the first, and it will only help Game Freak create a better open world in the future. Of course, I still think it would have been amazing to see a traditional Sinnoh remake.
Oh, okay, so this Millennium Loops, yeah. I remember when Millennium Loops first did this. When you see stuff like this, it pisses you off. See? Nah, this is perfect that I ended the last video like that. Look at how an Auraz-like BDSP would have looked like. This is that place where they blow up the ocean and all the Magikarps are floating, and you go to like the Azov cave or something in that Fighter Z Dragon Ball art style.
Considering the time constraints and all the moving parts behind the scenes, it's honestly kind of incredible that Legends Arceus exists at all.
I agree, bro. When I heard that Pokemon, a lot of the games are taking freaking 2 years, my freaking mind was blown, bro. My ass can't do crap in 2 years. So they're consistent, they're like a freaking always working on the next project constantly. And that's why when you look at them, you're like, bro, there's so much blandness. But in the overall scheme, it makes sense, bro. They're just going through projects fast. Even like during the Indigo Disc. Oh shoot, this is something, right? Wasn't Ku saying there was the Indigo Disc, the final battle with Tarabagus was supposed to be a lot more grand, even more grand stuff added on top and top, and then it was missing. I believe Ku said something like that, which makes sense, right? While they're developing the last bits of the Indigo Disc, during like probably in the same year that it's coming out, they know we got stuff to work on. We got Legends Ye, we got Gaia. Listen, let's just scrap some of these Tarabagus things. We at least got the Stellar down. We got the stacking turtles. Bro, just put it out. It's good. And from what I saw, I'm fully happy with the Indigo Disc. Everything, from the music, here and everything, I loved it. Indigo Disc was freaking incredible.
Delays or not, they pulled it off. And more importantly, they laid some of the technical and creative foundation for what came next.
That's actually very true. Except, for what came next, I'm not sure, because this open world throwing Pokeballs crap, the gameplay he just showed, that's not Scarlet and Violet, right? You can't catch Pokemon like that. That should have continued. I know the reason it didn't continue is because you'd never fight a wild Pokemon again to catch it. Just make it that catching system only works in a certain way, you know? Not that you could just spam and throw Pokeballs everywhere and never have to fight battles again.
And it really changes how I see the Legends series as a whole. They're not just experimental titles, they're Game Freak's opportunity to develop their technology, push boundaries, and prepare for the next era of Pokemon.
Nah, bro, you're saying Legends titles? This is Game Freak entirely. It's not exclusive to Legends, every game. Every game is pushing their limits. You know, X and Y 3D, Sword and Shield Big 3D, a Legends A open world, even Scarlet and Violet. It's not a Legends entry. That was hugely important to them. That was the first time they made a game that you could play in any order. The gyms in any order, you know?
And that just gets me even more excited for Legends EA. Page 4 talks about the intended target audience for the game, specifically overseas core gamers.
What? Overseas? We aim to acquire new users who will appeal to different demographics of Beluga and Orion. Okay, of Let's Go, and I don't remember what Orion is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm saying they made Legends because maybe Japan asked them. Bro, they made it for us? Master, all you have to do was call me, bro. I would have told you what to do. I mean, listen, it's incredible what they put together, but I can't believe it. This is all freaking one take, man. In the same recording, I just said this. It was for us. Now, they're saying the main target. So maybe they saw Japan wanted that and they targeted us. That's the best I'll give them, bro. Because we did not want that. Not we did not want that. We did not need that, you know? Let me give you an example, okay? If you've never tasted sugar in your life, it's like Game Freak just gave you sugar, and now they have to keep giving you sugar.
Especially those deeply embedded in gaming culture, the idea was to appeal to a demographic that typically doesn't play Pokemon. Moving on to page 5, it starts to break down the general foundation of the game, and we finally get our first look at some concept art. It mentions that the game would be based on Pokemon World folktales, and set around 150 years in the past, which lines up
Dude. Imagine being in that meeting. Imagine being in that meeting where they're like, yo, we're gonna make a freaking prequel Pokemon game in the past. Crazy.
Perfectly with what we ended up getting. One of the early concept pieces shows a dense, untamed forest. There's also early concept art of the Cobalt coastlands, and an early design of a protagonist. What's interesting here...
Yo, that looked like Raihan's son, but yo, I like it. I like them not looking like Dawn and Lucas, bro. That never sat with me. The whole premise of Legends Arceus didn't sit with me, man.
is that at this point, there doesn't seem to be any intention of making the main character resemble the Diamond and Pearl protagonists. That idea likely came a little later. Then we get to page 7, which—
And why did it freaking come? Why did you maybe, like, the easiest answer I'll give, and listen, I'm being as fair as possible. I'm seeing the business side, is they wanted it easily associatable. When we see these protagonists for this Gen 4 game, they're like, okay, let's make it easily, mentally a picture to grasp. Rather than developing whatever this guy is, let's just put someone that looks like Don and Lucas skin so it's very easy for fans to digest. Maybe they're right in it. In fact, you know what? They're right in it. I just don't like that we got sent to the past. I'll be happy if we were just an ancestor.
Then we get to page 7, which shows this massive sweeping area, clearly intended to showcase a large open space for the player to explore. It looks pretty close to the final in-game environments, just stripped of the fine details. From this point onward, a lot of the pages I'm flipping through just go into more detail about the game setting, most of which matches what we saw in the final release. Page 13 is especially cool. It features one of the early beta screenshots of the game. I like that the placeholder is literally just Brock.
Like Brock from Masters.
Then on page 18 we get a look at the original story pitch. And it's a little different. The
original story pitch? Yo, F you, bro, I'm reading it. Prologue, joining the pioneer group. Yeah, the people who pioneered modern Sinnoh. The protagonist suddenly finds himself himself? Because Japanese is neutral. Time travel to the peaceful modern world where he lives with his best friend. Best friend? In order to survive and return to the original world, he joins a pioneer group and begins investigating. Wait, that's different. That's freaking different already, kind of. It sounds like here, you're sent to the past as a mystery. You're not even given, I want to say you're not given that intro with Arceus, but then in the early storyboard, they drew that Arceus cutscene and even extended it. I'm not sure. If the game started with you waking up in the past and the initial parts was you trying to figure out what was going on, talking to people, and it was actually a mystery, that's an interesting difference. Okay, and then what's this? Okay, so you join the Pioneer group and begin investigating Pokemon. Number 2, 5th region? The Pioneer group's mission is to investigate Pokemon's capture in various places. Pokemon's capture? Makes it sound like instead of noble Pokemon, they were supposed to be these mighty Pokemon that someone imprisoned in all these areas. And you have to go them and free them. Maybe in this version of the story, what I'm describing is like, imagine like Cleaver's arms are all tied through like electro web type, like Pokemon move type craps, and they're all like sealed. And as you free each one of them and fight them, it's the same story as what we got. It's Volo and Giratina that did it. Rather than some kind of Arceus lightning bolt, which I think is Giratina anyway, it's like Volo himself physically sealed all the Pokemon trying to uncover Arceus mysteries, and then he pops up in the village as Volo. Like, he physically dirtied his hands rather than playing an innocent guy, right? Because in the final game, Volo only turns at the end. In fact, I don't understand it fully why he has like a level 5 Togepi with you. It's almost like Volo started his journey at the same time as you. Again, you know, it's Pokemon, who knows? But that's so much different and cooler. So when you get to the end, when you get to the post-game Giratina Volo moment, Volo would reveal, in the same way you got those Scarlet and Violet flashbacks, it would show you all 5 of those noble Pokemon that Volo was there earlier. With Giratina, maybe. And it like does something to all of them and maybe steals Arceus power from them. Because noble Pokemon are descendants from like Arceus gifted Pokemon, right? That sounds like freaking what they had planned. And then they had to just strip more and more off because they have to work on the next game. So then they just made Volo pop up there, no flashbacks, no Volo physically dirtying his hands. He's just a rival that struts at the same time as you. Happen to find Kogita stuff. Kogita's another thing. I wonder if there's anything about Kogita here. The protagonist encounters powerful unknown Pokemon, indigenous people in Northern, and the real world is revealed. UMA 3 trial with the help of the captain, you encounter a legendary Pokemon. The protagonist is forced to make a choice between opposing. That's sick! That's sick, the choosing moment. As a result, the world is put at risk. The protagonist loses the trust of his... So there's gonna be a moment. It would be something like when you pick Adamant or Irida, maybe it happens in the village instead. And something happens that makes you look bad. Like the village gets attacked or something. And so you're kicked out of the village alongside with whatever clan you just decide to side with, Diamond or Pearl. And that kind of adds extra heat for the ending where either Dialga or Palkia pop up, where one of the clans is looked at as bad and one is looked at as good, right? That's a cooler difference at Spear Pillar. The protagonist loses the trust of his friends, and then Mesprit Eyes of Uxie appear before him, imposing a trial on him. Returning to the present, bro. This game is insane. What does that mean? You were gonna return to the present? Yo, what does that mean? We are Dawn or Lucas? What if you return to the present and you are Dawn and Lucas? Like from that exact time period, you go downstairs and your mom's there. In these 3D graphics, like the same BDSP you just played? In chibi-ass graphics? You see tall mom, full house. Just for a moment. Just for like a very short period. And then you get sent back to the past. That is so cool. And you know, this is actually a really good thought right now. So you see when you encounter Mesper Azelphanuxi, it looks the freaking same as the modern games. You just find them in their cave. If I remember correctly, you just have like a pattern on the ground. Shoot, man, it's overheating. If I remember correctly, there's just like a pattern on the ground. Doesn't that look like they were trying to adapt the caves as they were in the modern games? And that's what they look like. And then they complicated the story and they're like, okay, we just have to pretend like these are the caves in the past. That sounds like what could have been going on. That the trial you're supposed to face when you're sent to the present is you're supposed to go to the 3 caves again. Which would maybe imply that canonically in Diamond and Pearl or Platinum, you catch Dialga or Palkia temporarily, but not Mesprit Azelphanuxi. Dang, that's so interesting. If we are Dawn or Lucas, then what happens when we're sent to the present? And if we're sent to the present, and this is after our choice of either Diamond or Pearl clan, what if you're sent to the present and you already are in the save file where you have Dialga or Palkia level 47 or something? You see what I'm trying to paint here, right? Like, you don't know this, but you being sent to the past and forward secretly happens in the background of the Diamond and Pearl games. Man, I think I complicated a bit with that, but hopefully y'all see where I'm going with that. Legendary Pokemon Showdown. Overcoming the challenges, the hero receives the help of the guardian deity. Okay, either Dialga or Palkia. The Pioneer Captain faces off against legendary Pokemon as he heads to the top of Mount Tangan to settle things. The Pioneer Captain. Wow, that's freaking Rowan's ancestor.
It's a bit rough, so bear with me while I try to make sense of it. So the idea was that the protagonist would time travel back 150 years. In order to return to the modern world, they'd have to join a pioneer group and start researching Pokemon with them. From there, the player would catch powerful Pokemon in different regions, but at some point they'd face a major choice. Siding with one of the 2 opposing factions. The decision would have massive consequences, eventually putting the entire world at risk and causing the protagonist to lose the trust of their friends. To earn that trust back, the protagonist would have to go through a trial set by the Lake Guardians. And it seems to imply that you—
Oh shoot, and Irida's here too! So that was retained. Oh man. What was the bit about returning to the present though?
Return to the present, the game would then climax with a player going back to the past, climbing Mount Coronet and confronting—
what's going on?
And it seems to imply that you'd briefly return to the present. The game would then climax with a player going back to the past, climbing Mount Coronet and confronting a legendary Pokemon. Now, a lot of these story beats did make it into the final—
Yo bro, my computer overheated, but I just had a crazy idea. Yo, you know how Legends Arceus is quite literally a prequel to Platinum in specific. It shows Giratina ain't letting anyone F around. It kind of protected the world there. It was a villain 150 years ago. It saved everyone this time. What if what Game Freak was really cooking up was showing you something behind the scenes even more in terms of some kind of paradox with that Giratina moment? In the sense that when you return to the present, or in the post-game when you return to the present, it has something to do with what you're doing with Volo in the past. That event has something to do with Giratina popping up all slimy and Platinum. Like they're on opposite sides of the same event. Giratina's even defeated at Spear Pillar, right? They only made it so okay in the post-game you can catch it again. What if it's defeated at Spear Pillar and in some way, its essence is sealed there forever? At the top of Spear Pillar, because Giratina's a bad Pokemon. Its essence is sealed there, but it's gone. And so 150 years later, when Cyrus is trying to pull both Dialga and Palkia out, that is a weak point, a weak fabric in the Pokemon world where Giratina can rip out. Because that's where it was sealed right after Volo was defeated. Wouldn't that be crazy? Because you know the only reason they made it so Volo walks away Giratina is just because they wanted you to catch it for your Pokedex. But that's surely not the actual what they wanted to happen.
But there are a few key differences. For example, the player does get expelled from Jubilife Village later in the game, but it's not a result of any choice you make. It's just part of a story. After you get expelled, you do have the option to side with either the Diamond or Pearl clan, but realistically that choice doesn't affect much. The trial with the Lake Guardians is still there too, but
maybe you side with the Diamond or Pearl clan, and then Dialga or Palkia appears and causes some destruction in the village. Because you know they're effed, right? You have to. The climax of the game is they're effed, and you have to calm them down. So in the same way, when their version of Almighty Sinnoh is what tries to attack the village, after you just told Kabuto and all, yo, these are my goons, I'm gonna side with them. That's what gets you and that clan banished. And then you're going to the 3 Lake Guardians with Iridor Adamant beside you. All right, so where's Kogita in all this, bro?
realistically that choice doesn't affect much. The trial with the Lake Guardians is still there too, but in the final game, the player never returns to the present, not even in the ending. It's likely a return to the present arc was completely scrapped. Moving on to page 19, we get some more concept art that looks like it was done further.
Why does that look insane?
Into pre-production. Akari's design is pretty much finalized at this point, but what really stands out is the environment. The scenery here is just gorgeous, even more detailed and atmospheric than what we got in the final build. I think Legends Arceus still looks solid overall, but seeing how Game Freak initially envisioned—
That is very different. That is freaking different. That is Shadows. That's Assassin's Creed Shadows, bro.
The world is always fascinating. Page 20 gives us another stunning concept piece, but this time the protagonist looks quite a bit different. I wonder why that is. Also, here's a comparison shot showing the Sword and Shield.
Oh, Ryan is freaking Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield and Let's Go were for a younger audience? Yeah, we knew this.
Protagonists in the beta Legends Arceus lighting. It really shows how much impact lighting direction can have.
Wow, so is that a sepia-like tone to make you feel in the past? I don't even think so. Because that's the same kind of tone Breath of the Wild had, right?
There's a beta version of a Hisui map included too.
Is that crap rotated? That crap's like 30 degrees rotated. Dang, yo, that's a post game. I mean, it could be obscene. Hey, yo, hold up. I forget where Sinnoh was in Japan, but I think that connects to the rest of Japan right there.
Comparing it to the promotional artwork and the actual in-game map, you'll notice some pretty major changes. For starters, the Obsidian Fieldlands looks completely restructured. Even Jubilife Village is positioned a bit differently in relation to the surrounding area. Surprisingly, the Cobalt Coastlands looks nearly identical across all three versions of a map. It's absolutely spot on. It even includes the volcano off the coast. The biggest change has to be the Crimson Merlands. Not only does it look larger in the final game, but the entire biome in general looks different from what we eventually got. The next few pages dive even deeper into the early concept build, with a heavy focus on the core gameplay. One section even directly compares the throwing mechanics to shooter-style controls.
Imagine pushing L2 and aiming. Like, it goes and you get a crosshair, but you're throwing Pokeballs.
Screen. It mentions that both positioning and trainer actions would be incorporated into the battle mechanics, which hints at a more active style of combat than what we eventually got. The move—
Pause, man. You know what that is? Pause, man! What the frick? You see? It's like half paused. Dude, you know in Legends Z8 when you're dodging and crap? It sounds like that's what they had planned for Legends Arceus. So while you're making your Pokemon use like Ember, you're still able to move. And you have to dodge maybe. But then they're like, yo, this is too complicated. Maybe, like, are we moving the trainer? Are we moving the Pokemon? Let's scrap it for now. Let's just get the basics out of the way with Legends Arceus. And then they revisited the rest of it with ZA. It makes sense to have this, because you're only dodging when you're throwing the freaking sacks of food. But then suddenly you're not dodging even when you're going to Pokemon battle, right? And when you're versing Arceus, you're literally going back and forth. It kind of breaks the... It sounds exactly what we see in ZA was what was supposed to be. It was supposed to be blended in between. This is crazy.
You'd simply press a face button to use each move. It's clear from the concept
that's like Mystery
that this was a direction Game Freak originally intended to go
in.
That's a
lot.
But now
that is so much like Mystery Dungeon. And ZA's new battle style is pretty much Mystery Dungeon, man. Like, I mean, in the way you attack in the overworld. Moves with range, area of effect damage. You use bulldoze hits all around you. You use like Power Punch is probably like something right in front of you. You use freaking Overheat, probably a giant area effect around. Zygarde's Core Enforcer, dang! Imagine seeing that. Imagine Zygarde as a villain instead. And you see giant Zygarde come down in perfect form and some crazy boss battle music appears. Just starts throwing Core Enforcers all over the place. You just see lasers etching Z in the ground. You gotta dodge him. Yo, make Zygarde a villain, bro. F it. I don't want an A legendary at this point. I do. I'm so freaking tired. I feel like I could wait 10 years and ZA still, maybe only 1 month would pass. What month is it now? It's May almost. We're near some news times, man. Back in the day, around June, when there was still E3, that was like 5 years ago. June was a big moment to reveal stuff. And for Oraz, it was May 7th that it was announced itself. So it's all copium, but you never know if we'll get something, man. Yeah, I like this little map. Dang, Totodile, bro. Yeah, I saw some screenshot of and I feel nothing, man. Like, it's exciting, but I'm being as genuine as possible when I say it's one step removed from me.
More context surrounding Legends ZA, we learned that the game is confirmed to be using a real-time combat system, and it's heavily speculated that the Pokemon move in sync with the player, and so it gives this pitch document a new perspective. Because when
I'd rather, when you're in combat, when you move, it's just moving the Pokemon now. Like, let me just dodge as the Pokemon. I don't need to dodge as the trainer, then it's like Donkey Kong Country, and my Pokemon is freaking Diddy Kong dodging with me.
we look back at these early Arceus screenshots, it kinda feels like this was the intention all along. I mean, it only makes sense.
Oh my gosh, Mega! Dang, bro, this gameplay looking new to me. That's how little I looked at the trailer. There's just a Mega Alakazam here. Wow, bro.
Why would the trainer be able to move in battle, but the Pokemon stay static in a—
Oh my gosh, I'm so freaking wrong. It shows it right here. So you dodge? It's not a dodge button. That's why, no, I can defend myself. It's not a dodge button. It's a call button to call your Pokemon to you, and your Pokemon trusting that when it comes to you, it dodges. So you have to strategically move your player somewhere to where your Pokemon can trust coming to you for you to be its eyes to dodge. Okay, so
I mean, it only makes sense. Why would the trainer be able to move in battle?
I was wrong, okay, I just fixed it.
But the Pokemon stay static in a real-time combat system. This image even shows a Pokemon running towards its opponent while the trainer moves alongside it. Just like what's been teased for Legends ZA. So while they didn't exactly—
Yeah, so it's a stand now. Now it's a freaking stand. Now you like maybe hold L2 and the 4 buttons appear on the right. You just push bulldoze, like Mystery Dungeon. And then dodge. Dang, man. People are going to be very annoyed with this at first, but this is the first step into a whole different type of gaming, man. Elden Ring type dodges. I remember I struggled a bit with Arceus and imagine the difficulty you can put in these games. And remember, in their PowerPoint itself, they said this is targeted at the old goons. So you can make it difficult. The same way it's mind-blowing to me that I actually struggled against Volo, despite being a grown-ass man. Not me struggling against Lance as a kid, or Green or Blue as a kid. I struggled at Volo. That's incredible. Oh my gosh, bro, this video's so long. Alright, bro, shank that like button. We've looked at enough. It's insane, everything we've talked about here. Not only is my freaking computer camera, the seat's overheating, but I'm overheating. The freaking previous video, bro, I had the freaking crap my mom put on my head and all still. Hopefully my editor made that funny, but okay, anyhow. Shank that like button, y'all. I'm gonna keep looking at this, commenting on it. Hopefully I'll get through this video soon, but this is mad exciting to me, man. This is mad exciting. I have too many thoughts to share, so I'm pausing, but yeah. I'll see you on the next one. Shout out to my editor. I'll see y'all. Take care. It's not bad, man. I recorded it separately here. Not bad. It didn't light when I made the camera do the work itself. Badass.